What's up, Blair Ballin?
How are you, Mr. Martin?
I'm good, man. How's Phoenix?
It's doing good.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Jason, is my face coming up or no?
All I see is a green screen for you.
Do you know how to fix that?
I don't. It's got to be on. Well, let me see. It's got to be something with your camera.
Blair, I got my Zello shirt on for you, dude.
I appreciate you wearing that.
Cool, guys. Hey, well, I know we're waiting on one person. I can always add him when he gets here, you know. So so guys, I want to ask you guys. So can you tell us a little bit about the markets that you guys are in? And we'll just start with Mark first, since you're first on the thing, and then kind of go around the list. So can you tell us what market you're in and like what's happening in your market now? Are you going up? Are you going down? How's inventory and that sort of stuff?
You bet. So I'm Mark Martin in Austin, Texas. Run a Remax team here. We our market is our average price is about $315, $330. We're running consistently year over year. We're doing 110 to 115 transactions. It's almost uncanny how no matter what we change, what we do, we still end up at that 100 to 120 mark, which is about 40 million in volume. So that's kind of the team size. The market, like most markets across the country, just really tight inventory on anything under 300,000. It's multiple offers, and buyers are having to lose 2 or 3 before they figure out that they've got to be in it to win it. The majority of our business on the buy side comes from Zillow. And then on the sell side, we get quite a few buyers who need to sell also. We prospect every day with RedX and calling expireds and BizBos and so forth. And I'm not in production anymore. My business partner's not in production anymore. We have a listing specialist. We have 4 buyer specialists, a full-time licensed transaction coordinator, and I'm getting ready. I've identified her. I just have to hire her. I'm hiring what I call a queen of culture to basically be our team mom and kind of love on the team and then love on our past clients, because that's one of our downfalls is we're not as good at past client touches as we need to be. It's still about 30% of our business, but it could be much more. So, but our market is just crazy. We're basically little Silicon Valley. We're in the running for the Amazon headquarters. Apple just finished their expansion here. They've got 3,500 employees. So Google's here. Everybody's here. So it's an amazing market, but hyper competitive, and it's been interesting because we push and push and push and try to grow, and we keep 40 million's not a small number, but at the same time it's not 100 million. And the people that there's a couple of agents here that are doing more than us, and they're basically just have massive ad budgets. So it's been an interesting thing to watch.
Cool. Well, Mark, how about Ricky? I'm sorry. How about you? You're in Alabama, aren't you?
South Alabama. Yep. Orange
Yes.
Beach.
So it's very different than what Mark said. You're in a very rural place, right?
The market actually is really similar numbers wise to Mark's. He just said 330 average price. That's what I've averaged this year on my sales. Inventory is pretty tight under 300. I mean, the numbers wise, it's very similar, but it's a small town, big beach. Like we have 20,000 some odd Gulf front condos, and it looks like Destin, Florida. It's beautiful, white sandy beaches. It's a highly vacation, traveled spot. We have about 4 or 5 million people that visit us every year. Our population of full-time residents is somewhere around 18,000. So it's very small population full-time, very large vacation population coming in each summer. So like I said, we're at like 330 average price. There's a lot of $1 million stuff down here. Not as much as some areas, but we're growing on our higher end luxury properties, which is really awesome. It's changing our market. We're starting to get the higher dollar clients in our market, but it's an interesting time because we were at such a high peak as everyone, and the market crashed and went down, and we're slowly been climbing back. We're not where we were at the peak yet, but we're getting close. It's climbing up. But we have about 4 months of inventory. That's kind of where we've been. Our appreciation's at about 4 or 5% a year for the last 3 or 4 years. And I sell Gulffront condos, but also residential homes. I sell more Gulffront condos than homes. They turn over more. Every 2 or 3 years they turn over on average. But it's a very interesting market because just the dynamic of having the beach with all the Gulffront condos and the price point and the turnover, and then you have that small town feel. So it's a very interesting. I grew up here, so it's a very interesting place, and I love it. So
Cool, man. How about you, Blair Ballin?
Yeah, out here in Phoenix in the desert, pretty similar to both Mark and Ricky's market. Average price point in Phoenix is right around 275 or so. Still a seller's market, probably hovering around 3 months inventory. Lots of activity. The 300 to million still has activity, but not as much as under 300. And then above that isn't moving all that much, but lots of buyers out there, less investors, so more owner occupants, which is creating a little bit more stability in buyers' minds and sellers, and just a really good overall market.
Cool. How about you, Edward? What market are you in? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your market you're working in. Oh, we can't hear you. You got to unmute yourself.
All right, can you hear me now?
There we go. Yep.
Okay, I'm in the Los Angeles County market. I'm out of Northridge, California. For us, our average price points are anywhere from 480 all the way to 10, 15 million, depending on how far you go into the city. But our market's doing pretty well right about now. We're seeing a lot of turnover still. Inventory's still there. So we're doing okay in our market.
Man, well, guys, a lot of the audience that I have in real estate agents that really work, they're newer agents or they're agents that have been in business for a little while and they're just trying to get going. One of the things with prospecting schedules I feel like that a lot of people have trouble with is, number one, who to call. Would you guys like to tell us about who do you call? What do you normally do? And what does your daily schedule typically look like? I'll tell you what, we'll start with Mark.
Okay, so basically 7:30 in the morning, I'm running updating, opening up RedX, making sure it's synced, taking out all the, I take out any LLCs, I take out the other agents, I take out any that come back as owner that doesn't have a name. And then I sync it with Mojo, and 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm on Mojo. Hitting expired. Some days there's only 3 or 5. Some days, the 1st and the 16th are always huge days, and there's anywhere from 30 to 100. But it's a every day, day in and day out. I have to be on the phone by 8 o'clock. It only takes 15 minutes sometimes. Sometimes it's an hour, but I'm hitting those people every day. We also drop voicemails, and we go back. We drop mass voicemail to old expireds once every couple of months, and I've got about 12,000 expireds in the back end of RedX that we just consistently work, and so we're able to pull consistently 5 to 7 listings a month out of that, of those total activities between the new stuff, the old stuff, our sellers that we get through Zillow, who are also buyers, all of that. So but it's consistency, I think, is a big thing for me. It's been on my calendar for years. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm on the phone.
Now let me ask you. You said that you guys drop voicemails. What kind of voicemail do you drop?
Yeah, it's just a quick message with the same thing I'm talking to them about when I'm calling them, and who I am, what I do. Sorry to see that their home didn't sell. Would love to chat with them about it if they are still going to be selling that. And I have a 29-day sale guarantee that I talk about. So in our market, things move quickly. If it's priced right and marketed effectively, it's going to sell. So they've been on the market 4 months, 6 months, and I come along and say I can sell in 29 days. Obviously, that has to be at the right price, and it has to be something that we think will sell, but it gets the phone to ring. Some of my competitors have a 59-day guarantee. Some of them have 45 days. So we just had to look at what can we stomach, what can we support, and the asterisk is obviously we have to price it right.
Now we're dropping voicemails. We had a question here. For the mass voicemails, are you using something like SlyDial?
We use Sly Broadcast in the mornings for the new expireds, and then we use CallFire for the mass, the big ones.
Awesome, man. How about you, Ricky? How's your day look?
Man, I make calls from 9 to 12 just about every day. Kind of similar to what Mark does. But I don't call expireds. I just circle prospect. I'll pick out a building or a subdivision, and then I use the GeoLeads feature, which is really incredible. I've been doing this a long time, and I've found numbers all over different places to find phone numbers. It really is the best I've found as far as quality goes. A lot of them are I don't know what the percentage are, but I have a lot of people say, how'd you get this number? This is my cell phone number. So to be able to just plug in an address and then find 50, 100, 200, 300 property owners' contact information around that address with the click of a button is like, magic to me. Because when I started real estate, there was no dialer, there was no anything like this. I had to hand type in all the addresses and a lot of labor intensive stuff to find phone numbers and actually have to dial the numbers by hand. It's amazing what you can do in today's world. But yeah, I'll call all morning for the most part, unless I have some kind of appointment or showing properties. I'm a single agent, so I do all my own showings and all my own stuff. So it doesn't work out the same every single day, but ideally I want to call all morning, and I'll just call around a just listed or just sold or something under contract. I'll strike a conversation, and probably a lot of my business is people I talked to years ago that I've stayed in touch with that now they're ready to do something. But also get a lot of immediate business out of it. So that's kind of my approach.
That's awesome, man. I use GeoLeads too. I told a story earlier today, man. When I first started making calls, I had 2 cell phones. While one was ringing, I was dialing the number on the other one, and I had to hang up and dial, push start on the other one so I could call again, man. That's an awesome story. How about you, Blair?
Yeah, so for the past probably 7 years or so, I've been calling expired, mostly using RedX. Try to be on the phones. Sometimes I'm on at 7 a.m., but the plan is to be on by 8 and then just calling for no less than an hour, but really 2 to 3 hours a day. Some of that call time is for follow-ups for scheduled follow-ups that people have told me, give me a call back on this day, this time, whatever. But it's calling expireds for a period of time, and then I'm also calling online buyer leads. The expireds are coming through RedX. The data through there is awesome. And then just doing my best to get through as many expireds as quickly as possible. Like Mark, I get rid of owner agents, LLCs, people that have this might sound bad, but probably are from a nationality that I think I won't be able to communicate well with them. So I would just be wasting my time and theirs and not being able to service them correctly. So getting rid of those as much as possible, and then just dialing as much as I can. And if it takes 3 hours, 4 hours for me to accomplish my goal, then whatever it needs to happen, I do.
You just work until it's over.
Yep.
Man, that's awesome. Hey, Edward, how about you? What's your typical day look like?
I'm on the newer side of prospecting. I've been prospecting for now, I think a year and a half, almost 2 years now. I think I've never taken an expired listing before prospecting. Last year, I did 23 expireds. I took 23 listings on expired. So for me, I'm constantly hitting expireds. I use GeoLeads a lot. I actually use the Vortex system as my CRM. Helps me keep everything in organized, everything in check, and I consistently keep on hitting them. Obviously, for me, it works a little different because I don't have a database and everything's new business. I've been able to use GeoLeads to help me build my database, and especially for open houses and things of that nature. So I definitely start calling by 7:30. My dialer's already loaded on the way to work. I do it from my mobile app. So by the time I do get to the office, everything's ready to go. I still consistently role play every morning, 15 to 30 minutes. And then I just go from there. I consistently prospect about 2 hours. Then I get off the phones and I prospect again and later on in the afternoon. So I've been able to do that, and it's looking better and better every year being on the newer side of real estate.
Yeah. Guys, one of the things that I hear agents ask me over and over again that are new to prospecting is they ask how to overcome the fear of getting on the phone and talking to these people that you don't know. And what advice would you guys have for them? How did you overcome fear when you were first getting started?
Well, go ahead.
Oh, we'll start with Mark.
Overcome fear? Was that the question?
Yes, sir. How do you overcome fear? And how'd you overcome fear when you just were first starting to get on the phone making calls?
Yeah. So for me, it's a financial thing. So, I try to figure out, $300,000 average price. It's a $9,000 commission. How many appointments do I need to set to sell a house? How many contacts does it take me to set an appointment? How many appointments to take the listing? How many of those listings are going to sell? So it's a formula, and you can work backwards into it. But basically, I know that every contact I make is worth about $120. And so if they tell me no, or they tell me, F you, don't ever call me again, I'm just made $120 because I'm that much closer to a yes. And so, when I put it into those terms, and then I have on my board written in big letters the word next with an exclamation point, because you're going to get rejected all day long. We're just looking for one yes. And it's, whether your goal is one listing appointment a day or 2 listing appointments a week or whatever the goal is, you don't stop until you hit the goal. And, for the folks that I coach across the country, it's the same thing. We have a contact goal, and I don't care if your goal is 10 contacts a day. If you got 10 no's, that's fine. Tomorrow, you're going to make another 10 contacts, and you're going to get another 10 no's. But on Wednesday, you're going to get a yes. And that yes is worth thousands of dollars, potentially. So that's how I do it, is I don't have fear because I love making money. And it's there's a great book called The Psychology of Call Reluctance. And it's an actual call reluctance is an actual psychological issue, and you have to break through. You have to just get past it, and it happens to everybody. We all get it. Nobody loves rejection, but I love money. And so if I know I'm going to sit down and make a certain amount of money, that's what I do every day.
Yeah, I understand. So if you track your numbers, and I've told agents this before too, if you track your numbers and you can really dial it in, and you can figure out, you can work them backwards and figure out, hey, I got to prospect 5 hours this week to get this many people on the phone and this many appointments, and you can really dial things in with that.
Right. Absolutely. It's a very simple formula. You just have to work backwards into it. And, there's no secrets in real estate. We have to do the activities that other agents won't do in order to get the results that they don't have. So.
Yeah, for you guys using that are listening to this, that are using RedX and they're using Vortex, Pulse actually tracks those numbers for you. So you can actually, if you're using that primarily as your prospecting tool or platform, then it does all the guesswork out of your that, so that you can plan for your future or month or whatever it may be. So how about you, Ricky? What do you do to overcome fear in your business, and what did you do to overcome fear when you first got started?
Well, I don't believe that you can ever, there's no magic way to just all of a sudden overcome your fear. You just have to ask yourself, do I really want to be successful? It's a people business. You have to talk to people, even if you get internet leads, Facebook, Zillow, regardless of how you conduct your business in terms of capturing leads, you have to talk to them to convert them. This is why the real estate agent hasn't been replaced by technology yet, because that conversation has to be had. There has to be a human connection for there to actually be a chance of a transaction, and people have to be consulted and navigated through the market. Every market's so different. That's why the technology people, they can't figure it out because it's so different per market. So you really have to ask yourself, do I want to be successful? And then you just have to watch the guys, the top producers. What are they doing? How do they do it? And then at some point, after you try everything except making calls, because you're trying to do everything to get around making calls, and you're trying to make excuses to make calls, and you hit brick wall because you can't quite get the momentum you need, you get to the point where you just have to try the calls, and you just got to do it. Because like I say, you never get over your fear necessarily, because if you're a motivated person and you're constantly trying to grow or go to the next level, then that means you're constantly going to be growing out of your comfort zone. Like I've started to publicly speak. That's out of my comfort zone. It was the same feeling as when I started making cold calls. Now, as you make cold calls over time, you grow a little bit more confident, and you grow a little numb to the fear, but that fear's still there. Even when I make calls now, even though I'm really super comfortable, I know every different scenario. I'm not worried about rejection. I've been through every little thing there is to be through on a phone call. There's still a little bit right down in the bottom of my stomach that says, I'm a tad bit uncomfortable. So it never goes away. It's something you have to embrace. And if you really want to go big, then, nothing's easy. If it were easy and comfortable, then, everybody would be a top producer. So you just have to ask yourself, do I want to be successful? How successful do I want to be? And then just go for it. I like the 3-2-1 method. When something is going to make you successful scares you, just say to yourself 3-2-1 and then do it. Because over time, the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be. Can you guys hear me?
You muted yourself.
All right. Yeah, I'm back. Did you hear all that?
Yeah, we heard you. I'd actually muted myself. But Ricky,
Okay.
So what you got to really do is you just got to get out there and just get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly, dude. You can't just walk around saying, oh, something's going to happen that I'm going to be comfortable and everything's going to just work out. No, you have to be aggressive and just you can't have any fear. If you're going to go big, you just can't have any fear. And if you're one of these people who are afraid to make calls and it's just terrifying to you, then you really need to sit down and evaluate yourself as far as, do I really want this or not? Because phone calls there's no way around it. It's absolute key to success in real estate.
Yeah. How about you, Blair? What do you do to overcome that fear of getting on the phone and making calls? What did you do when you first started?
Well, it was pretty much my only way to get the money that I needed to have to pay bills, support my family, and accomplish my goals. So it was either, be foreclosed on more properties, go bankrupt, or continuing along a path that wasn't positive or one that I wanted to go on. I'm not necessarily a big believer in open houses for me because they don't work. I'm not really a networker. So the only way for me that I deemed would work in my business was prospecting. So it's either get on the phone or get out of the business. And I didn't want to get out of the business. So the fear quickly had to go away. Am I maybe concerned, that I'm going to get someone on the phone that says F off or whatever? Not really, because it's just, it happens. It doesn't really matter. I know how to play it off. Does it eventually eat at me? Probably, but there's no fear in calling because I know that I have to accomplish my goals, and being on the phone is the only way to accomplish that. So, it's just a matter of picking up the phone, getting used to it. There's always going to be stuff that pops up objections wise that maybe we haven't heard before. But whatever, if we have our goals and we know that we want to accomplish them, and this is one method to get there, then we need to be on the phone to be doing it.
Awesome, man. How about you, Edward? What do you do to overcome that fear of getting on the phone? I know these other guys on the panel, they've been doing it a little longer than you. You're a little less removed from getting started here, first getting started. What did you do when you first started picking up the phone and calling those people? Especially with geo leads. Tell us about that, because geo leads, it's scary when you're calling random people. Expired, you at least have a reason to get on the phone with them.
Well, I personally love expireds versus geo leads, and I personally feel that expireds are for me, a lot easier than calling geo leads. But the fear of getting on the phone, I had that in the very beginning, not now. For me, the fear of getting over the phone calls is just continued dialing. I remember for the first 6 months, I would just let the dollar go and go and go. I would call either a farm or a geo leads, and I even did sequential dialing for at first. And I would get accustomed to having conversations with people. Once I got over the fear of that, it's just, hey, at the end of the day, they don't know me and I don't know them. I know that I'm there to provide value and a service to them. Once I got over the fear of that, I currently have 2 coaches. It goes back to what Mark said, is tracking your numbers. I know right now for every hour of prospecting, I go between 9 and 13 contacts on an expired source, and then I switch sources consistently. So if I'm having a funk on my expireds, then I'll go geo leads, and then I go for sell by owners. And then if I'm having a completely off day, I'll hit my warm market, center of influence. I also set up a system. I have 3 go-to people. These are people that will help me no matter what, be on the positive side, even if it's a 5 to 30-second conversation, just to switch that mindset, because it's a consistent battle. Because if you're not feeling it, there's no reason to be on the phone, because you're not going to get any results in that sense. So when my coach now is consistently tracking my numbers. So if I'm tracking my numbers, I know exactly how many contacts I have to get in order for me to set an appointment. So my listing to appointment, my appointment to listing ratio right now is about a 63%, which last year was at a 73%. And I know where I'm making the mistake, because if I graph everything, I know last year I made more contacts in the month of November to December because there was less people on the phone. And then I noticed that in July, I did less contacts because I had a great month. And that's where complacency will kick in. So it's allowed me to develop the amount of contacts I have to make consistently. So I know if I'm off by my contacts, if I just switch to 2 or 3 more contacts per that month, it would actually offset the contacts that I made the following month. But in order for you to get your fears is, first of all, know your objections, know what you're speaking about. Because most of us will get on the phone, and the minute someone gets on the phone, we start doing this hot potato thing. They answer and like, oh my God, they said yes. Now what? Most people are so busy thinking about the next question on their script that they forget to have a conversation with someone. And that's helped me out a lot. Also reading has helped me out a lot, to go ahead and do it. And I'm someone that has a speech impairment. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm, when I was in the military, I had PTSD and other things. So for me to communicate was very difficult. So I started doing that just by calling. For those who don't know what sequential dialing is, just go to Excel, go the prefix, and then whatever the prefix number, and go 1, scroll all the way to 1,000. And I literally went through that for a whole week. And I just got good conversation with people. So there's only X amount of objections that you get, in my opinion. And you just got to get good at getting a conversation with people. And that's how I got over, obviously speech rate, knowing people's personality and things of that nature. So for me, it's been a blessing, and it's awesome to meet people like Mark and Blair and Ricky to share more knowledge. The knowledge is great for me.
Man, that's awesome. And that actually, what you said leads into my next question. And guys, if you're listening to this on Facebook, you're listening to it on Zoom, if you have any questions for these guys, I got them for another 30 minutes here. So go ahead and ask, and I'll be glad to ask them. But your answer leads into my next question. You guys have all experienced a certain level of success. And I think it was Mike Ferry was the first person I heard say this. He said that the hardest thing to fight in the industry sometimes is complacency. The hardest thing about having a good next year, or the hardest thing about having a really good year, is to do it again next year, because sometimes it sucks, especially if you're looking at your checking account and you got plenty of money in there to pay your bills and you had a really good month last month. So Mark, how do you fight complacency?
So for me, I know that 7 years ago, in fact, I gave a talk about this at the Zillow Forum last week, but 7 years ago, I was at my absolute rock bottom and completely broke, broken, everything. And so I had to basically start over. And I was Edward 7 years ago again for the third time. So I've had to rebuild my business and bring it back from nothing. And every single time I've done that, I've done it by prospecting and by calling expires and calling FSBOs and listing properties and holding them open and then selling them and then building and building and building. And so it's the one way that I know that I can create money, right? One of the things I like to say is we create our own economy in this business. If you don't have the amount of money that you want or aspire to, or you don't have the things that you want, or you don't have the time or whatever, all you have to do is work and it'll solve that. And so, if you're, one other great quote, Jason, that I have written on my board that's by Mike Ferry is, you can buy the business, or you can wait on the business, or you can go out and find it every day. And so, we live in an economy now, or in a market now, where the consumers, the majority of them are online. So yes, I buy a portion of my business, but I want to make damn sure I've got an ROI on that that's supporting the things that we need to do. But we also go out and find it every day. And so complacency, I started racing cars about 2 years ago, and this is such an amazing business because it will fund some amazing things. Ricky's a kiteboarder and travels all over, and there's things that we enjoy doing, and the business funds that, because if you work hard enough and you are consistent enough and you are good enough with your scripts and objection handling and presentations, if you want to go out and make an extra 10 grand, 100 grand, $500,000, $1 million, we're at $1.2 million now consistently in GCI. You just simply have to do the activities and then scale yourself, and look at how do you scale. But for me, when I got into the racing, the cars, the things I learned on the track from my coach and the driving are so applicable to business. There's no coasting. You're either flat on the gas or you're flat on the brakes, and you're turning the car and you're back on the gas immediately. It's instantaneous. Everything happens quick. because you're dealing in tenths of a second and sometimes hundredths of a second between you and the next guy. So keeping that pedal down and keeping the pressure on and creating tension, there's stress and there's tension. I like to create tension for my folks on the team. I don't want to create stress for them because that's unhealthy, but a little bit of tension is good. And I'm constantly pushing them. And so, keeping your foot on the gas is a huge key. Everybody needs vacations. Everybody needs to unplug. Everybody needs to relax every once in a while. But so many agents, I'll give you an example. Right now, November through February is when we work the hardest because everybody else is taken off. All right. If you're a real estate agent and you think you're going to unplug from November till January or February because it's the holidays and nothing's happening and the business is slowing down, go do it, because I'm on your ass and we're taking market share while you're sleeping and vacationing and doing whatever you're doing. So this is the time of year when we build the pipeline for that huge onslaught of listings coming in the spring. We want to roll every year into March with 50 listings at least. And so to do that, we have to build that pipeline now and create those relationships, create those nurtures, and build that pipeline. So you can probably tell I get a little jazzed about this, but this is the time of year when we just literally buckle down and kick ass.
Setting yourself up for 2018.
Exactly. Every year we do the same thing. And when we'll come into March with 40, 50, 60 listings, we'll sell through them by June or July. We're done. We've made that big chunk of money. So if we're going to coast it all, we do it in September, first part of October, and then it's back on the gas. So long-winded answer, but complacency is just not an option because I know what rock bottom is. I know what completely broke is. And I'm never, ever going back there.
Yeah. How about you, Ricky? How do you fight complacency?
Sorry about that.
Were you going to say something, Jason?
Oh, I know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I love Mark's answers, dude. Man, I'll tell you, I never really had a problem with it, tell you the truth. I think some of it is DNA. Like there's got to be some kind of inner drive inside of you. Some people have it and some people just don't. But it comes back to the fear of cold calling, It's like, do you want to be successful or not? But, when I tried to be, I wanted to be the best agent in my area. And so just like Mark, in the off season, November, December, January, when all the other agents are kind of sleeping, that's where I close the gap on agents. I work harder, or at least just as hard or harder during the off season, and I close the gap. Well, over 10 years, I closed the gap completely and surpassed everyone in my area. But now it's like a competition with myself. It's always been a competition with myself. Every year I want to do better. When the market crashed, lost everything. 2008, I came back. I've made more money every single year since 2008. Because I work all year long, whereas most agents take off certain times of the year for whatever reasons. And that's when I really capitalize because I work all the time. And that's why, even some of the best agents in the area, they take time off during the holidays. So I think it comes down to a couple things. DNA is really my, something that's inside of me. I don't know what it is that just gives me so much drive, but I have this thing. I want to beat myself. I'm in competition with myself every year. Let's see. So far, I'm 112 transactions this year, just single agent, one assistant. Last year, I did 105. The year before that, it was like 102. My income went way up because our market's increased. So the average price and I've actually, once I got to 100 transactions, it's like, well, I'm a single agent doing 100 transactions, I'm pretty maxed out on number of transactions. So how can I increase income, as a single agent? So that's when I started trying to focus on higher price points and raising my average price per transaction. So it's always trying to figure out where that next level is. You know, it's like wherever you are, there's always another level. You know, I mean, even for, you know, the best guys in the business, the very number one agent in the world, there's another level for him too. So it's just something inside of you that you have to recognize and take advantage of. Another thing is I don't, you know, I since I'm doing real estate and coaching, you know, I do a lot of that. I work a lot more hours than I used to. When I was just doing real estate, I would knock off at 5 o'clock every day because I didn't want real estate to rule my life. So during the evenings when I wasn't really working per se, I really recharged during that time. I think a lot of agents will get burnt out because they go so hard for so long, work so many hours. They're spinning their wheels. You have to become a master at balancing your time and your recharging while maximizing the time that you are working. And that's something I've done really well at naturally. And then when you go on vacation, really try to relax, you know, work while you're working, and then really try to turn your brain off and recharge, you know, when it's time to recharge. Don't let the business take your life over, because you'll get burnt out, and that's not, you know, that'll slow you down too. So you have to find good balance. You have to have inner drive, and be in competition with yourself.
Yeah, I understand, man. It's and Blair, I'm gonna go to Edward first. He's got an appointment he needs to get to, but and then we'll come back to you, Edward. So are you fighting complacency in your business? You had a fantastic year. Your first year on the phone, you listed a lot of expireds. A lot of agents would have liked that same thing. How are you fighting complacency? How are you fighting that urge to take Christmas off?
Well, Jason, I mean, I'm very, very new to the business. In my opinion, I have a lot to learn, and I'm always consistently learning. Based on what I've learned, I mean, one of my coaches once told me when I hit rock bottom, just like Mark, I didn't have very much. You know, our broker, Danny Morrell, he once told me, he goes, you're going to have two choices in life, and whatever decision you make is solely up to you. Either A, you can continue on with the story of how you can prospect, or how you can't do this, or how everyone's doing better than you can, or you can just solely focus on you, compete against yourself, and do what you do better. But the choice is ultimately you. I went through that stage, and I just literally put my head down, didn't worry about anybody else what they were doing. I mean, we have producers in our office that do high volume, low volume. There's people in our area making 100 transactions, but that wasn't me. You know, I had to concentrate on where I was going and what I was doing next. The problem is that I saw that I have experienced is that in our industry, at least in our marketplace, you can have a great month. We're talking about 60, 80,000 in 1 month. You know, most people don't even make $80,000 in a year. So when you're getting large checks of that amount, you know, you start letting go of the gas, or when you're prospecting, it's not the same because you're like, well, I have money coming in. So the complacency sat where it's okay, I took 2-3 months off, and I came back and I noticed there was nothing in my pipeline. So for me, it's a consistent cycle of putting things in the pipeline. I continuously push the envelope on things I want to do, compete against myself. So I don't know what most people are doing or what everyone's doing in my marketplace. I do look at other people's numbers because I'm a competitive person. You know, Mark gave an example about racing. In racing, when you're leading behind somebody else, you're obviously you want to make sure you're looking at the right person, but you want to see that right opening. And it's when you let go of the gas, or in any turns, you know, you have to come in at a certain speed and leave at a certain speed, because what happens is the minute you let go of the gas, you start shifting your mindset, or you start doing other things that are distracting. And that was one of my biggest things, is getting away from distractions, which cause complacency in my end. And having a great quarter, it's great, but we're only good as our last sale or our last month. So what my coach started doing with me is, okay, you have a great business, but it's not duplicatable. What are you going to do the following month? So I started learning how to build a database. I started learning how to sort everything that I was doing, because honestly, I was just a new agent, just going out there getting business. But the question is, how is my business going to be duplicatable or repeatable next month? And the way that was done was obviously by tracking my numbers. Coaching is a big success, in my opinion, to growth in anyone's business. But as far as complacency goes, it's a normal thing from what I've heard. I've been fortunate to have great people in my life to give me examples and keep me accountable. And accountability will definitely help you not sway into complacency. Accountability can be a form of coaching or someone that's doing high volume. And, you know, I love shadowing people doing great things, great volumes, great numbers, because at the end of the day, that's where I want to be in the future in those steps.
Oh, of course, man. If we go out there and model people that are successful, then hopefully we can at least reach some level of success they've had.
Of course, most definitely.
I really appreciate it. So, Blair, how do you fight complacency in your business?
I don't know that I get complacent. I certainly get burnt out because I don't have any balance whatsoever. And it's been an issue that I've had for a while because I work too much. Because, you know, like what drives me is that I like being on the phone. I like that challenge. To me, it's a game. Knowing that I need to speak to however many people, and then by a certain point, I'll be able to contact someone, convert them. Then if it's a listing appointment, go on the appointment, win the appointment, sell the home, et cetera, et cetera. And especially if it's an expired, knowing that there was some other agent that wasn't able to sell the home, and then I come in and I'm able to do it, and I reached that person through the phone. Now I'm providing that service that someone else wasn't able to. So I don't feel that I get complacent. I do get burnt out. I'm driven to accomplish my goals, set new goals, and continue to, you know, get better. I do get burnt out, but I don't feel that I ever get complacent.
Man, that's awesome. Man, I tell you what, I fight complacency all the time. It's sometimes I've been on the phones for 14 years, and sometimes you just have days where you go, oh man, I don't want to do it. But you know, you got your goals and you got the things that motivate you, and it just kind of keep going sometimes. But guys, I've got several questions I want to ask you guys real quick. So I know you guys are in your business and you've been doing it for a while. Do you still role play? Do you still go out to the basics? Let's start with this. Do you guys still role play?
I do, but I do it with my coaching clients. And so, you know, helping them with their scripting and dialogues and all that, but it helps me at the same time. You know, many times the teacher becomes the student, and, you know, there's different things that work in different markets, and, you know, there's different objections, and in some different markets, there's different dynamics. And so, you know, I think role play is hugely important. It keeps you sharp. Absolutely. For me, I'm lucky enough that I get to do it pretty much on a daily basis with my coaching clients.
Well, how about you, Ricky? Do you still role play?
I'll tell you what, man, it sounds crazy, but I've never role played. I just practice on my prospects, you know. I've always wanted to actually, I mean, the script is right there in front of me. You know, what am I going to do? Just say it over and over again to a brick wall? I feel like the response from the prospects is way more important than learning how to actually read people over the phone and, you know, cater to the situation and try to establish a relationship or a connection with them is the far better tool that you need to learn. It's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it until you actually get on the phone and practice with a live prospect. I'm not against role playing at all. I just never did it. And, you know, so I never got into it, but the bigger picture, what I would like to add is just for people to understand that the role play and what you're saying is important, but understand there's a whole nother dynamic to, the skill of connecting with people and reading people over the phone. You know, tonality, speed of your voice, accent, and things of that nature. So practice that as well. When you're role playing, work on your words. When you're making your calls, work on your people skills over the phone.
Awesome, man. How about you, Blair? Are you still role playing, or did you ever role play?
I role played probably 2 to 3 years ago, and I haven't since. I have yet to find a role play partner that I'm good with, and sort of like Ricky, kind of feel that, and I have nothing against role playing. I just kind of feel like a lot of it is just kind of garbage with agents saying, role play partners saying stuff that they think is what is going to be the objection, but it's nowhere near that. So we're just practicing stuff that's really not important, and that doesn't help us on the phone. So like Ricky, I'd rather be on the phone practicing with customers, be able to get better at that.
Awesome, man. Hey, well, I got two more questions for you guys, and then we'll end. I really appreciate you guys being on here with me today. So, what tools would you recommend an agent just starting to prospect? What tools are you using, and what would you recommend them to start out with?
I think a cell phone, RedX for sure. I think the geo leads. I know that Ricky's group, Ricky really focuses on circle prospecting. I like the geo leads product quite a bit. I would caution against starting with a dialer, a triple line dialer right off the bat, because it's pretty intimidating, but it's highly efficient. So once you get to it, absolutely. But it depends. I mean, agents will have great years, and then they will head into they'll hit this time of the year and like, man, I had a great year, but they're fearful about next year because they don't know how to replicate what they did this year. And no matter what level you're at, you have to do a certain number of things and the same things. And you want, we teach 3, maybe 4 pillars in your business. You don't need 20 different bright, shiny objects to try to grow your business. You need to be really good at 3 or 4 things, and then add from there. So, pick what you want to do. Pick, is it going to be listings? Is it going to be buyers? What's it going to be? How are you going to leverage yourself? And then do it. Actually take the action. Stop planning it and start doing it. And then scale yourself. You got to figure out, I think Ricky's a great example. 110 transactions as a single agent with an assistant. That's amazing. But if Ricky's going to scale, how is he going to get to 200? How's he going to get to 300? Because he's only one human, right? And, I had a mission a while back, 2-3 years ago. I started when I was, Dirk Zeller and I were talking about, how do I extract myself out of the business? How do I come out of production? And it took me a year and a half of a very rigid plan to be able to exit out of production. And it's extremely freeing, but it's also extremely stressful because now I'm dependent on everybody else producing. So I have to guide them. But I know at any given time, I can jump right back in and go knock out some listing appointments and make money. So, it's just starting out. 2010, when I was broke, I borrowed money from my mom to get my real estate license reinstated, joined the board. I got a cell phone, I got RedX, and I got Top Producer. I think my monthly expenses were a whopping less than $300 a month, and just started listing properties. And it's that's the fastest way and the cheapest way to create dollars for yourself is to prospect and go get listings.
Awesome. How about you, Ricky?
Some tools.
What tools are you using, and what would you recommend a new agent go out and get that's new to prospecting? What kind of tools?
If I were a new agent, had it all to do over again, really, to be honest with you, all I'd really get is RedX. And I would just, I would use the GeoLeads feature and, the dialer. That's really all you need to really get going. Eventually, once I built up a database, I would want an email, system like Constant Contacts or MailChimp or something like that. But in the beginning, you don't really need that, because if you only have 50 or 100, people in your database that you're emailing, then you don't need the bulk emailer. So to start out, I use Constant Contacts for my emails. But if I were a new agent, I would get the minimal everything. I would go GeoLeads, RedX, and just start talking to people. That's the bottom line. A lot of agents, new agents, they get so caught up in doing their business cards and figuring out how to write a contract and all these things that don't really matter until you actually have a prospect. Just go get prospects and get some business rolling, and then figure all the other stuff out kind of as you go. So Constant Contacts, RedX is that's really all I use. You know, I do a little, there's a website, a free website, Canva. Everybody knows that. I use that a little bit for different graphics and stuff. You know, all my contacts are in my phone. I don't have a CRM. Everything's in my phone or in my emails or in Constant Contacts. So RedX though, for sure. And some kind of email bulk sender as your database grows.
Awesome, man. Awesome. How about you, Blair? What would you recommend an agent new to prospecting getting? What kind of tool?
Yeah, before I answer that, I'd like to know what a shopping cart is doing in Ricky's room.
That's for his new. He's sizing up his new ads for the shopping carts.
It's actually my new wife's birthday. We're staying at one of our condos in Orange Beach, and we just went grocery shopping.
Very nice. So I pretty much like with Ricky and Mark. I'd say absolutely RedX, and then a phone, internet, and that's it. I mean, like, we like to overcomplicate things, and it just doesn't need to be that. Especially as a new agent, there's no need to get caught up in all the shiny new objects and all that kind of stuff. It's just pick up the phone, start dialing. You don't need a 3-line dialer. As Mark said, it can be intimidating up front, but eventually it's probably good to work up to that. But outside of that, just hit the phones and use good data. And RedX has, in my opinion, the best that's out there for really all of the sources, whether it's expired, the geo leads, for rent by owners, the auction stuff, all that stuff is incredible. And I've compared in my market Vulcan literally side by side with RedX, and Vulcan 7 has gone downhill anyway, in my opinion, out here. But comparing the two, when I did, RedX just absolutely dominates it, and most importantly, puts the best numbers first. So you don't have to make as many calls to reach the people that you're trying to reach.
Awesome, man. Awesome, guys. Well, hey, guys, I think that summed it up. We got 3 superstars on the panel with me still, and Edward had to leave a little bit earlier, but I'm sure he would agree with this. The only thing you guys need to get started is you need a cell phone and you need RedX. That's it. Well, I really appreciate you guys being here today. We're out of time, but thank you so much. And if I can help you guys with anything in your business, just please let me know. Thanks so much.
Jason.
You guys have a great day.
You too.